Hello everyone. Today I wanted to give a demo on how Sitecore Foundation handles component rendering parameters, what it does for content authors, and what the extensibility point, so that if you're looking to build your own set of components, how you can leverage the same approach. If you do go to sitecorefoundation.com or you load the Starter Kit site from your local environment, in the component guide tab, you get basically a kitchen sink that has each of the components. And there's over 50 of them. So you'll see all the layout components, the block grid, various other components as an example. And one of the things I've tried to do is make them behave consistently. So when you come into the experience editor for a page, and this just is a simple demo page, I put a two-column component in there. And we can do something like a text component. Now here you'll see it gives me options to select existing text in these 4 folders. We'll talk about in another session, but really quickly, this is where we want to store it, whether we want to store it under the page, at the site level, at the site collection level, or globally. But we'll just create new content here. Doesn't really matter. And we can just go hello world, doesn't matter. But here's the thing, each of our components, if you go to component properties, has a common set of rendering parameters. So if you scroll down, every single component has an ID in the CSS class, and by entering something here, it'll actually render into the container around that component, and I'll show you what that looks like on the back end. In addition to that, the foundation components, or the foundation versions of some of the simple components, all have additional framework-specific parameters. Now, Foundation has a number of CSS classes that control visibility, which have been all parameterized. So show for small, medium, large, hide for small, medium, large, landscape, portrait, touch, no touch, printer, no print, printer, no print. Give you a number of different options. So as a content author, you can come in there and kind of really set the responsive behavior for a component. Now, every single component in the framework today supports that. And some components support additional features. So, for instance, if I add a button, let's go, just a simple button. And let's create a new button. Now, buttons are just really links. And I can set the link. Let's go to the home page. And we can see it renders as a default foundation button. Now, if I go to the component properties there, we can see we have additional ones. So if I want to make this a large button, maybe a warning button with round corners, I can do that. And then all the other parameters are there. Now, some of these things I do have to save it. You can see it's now a large rounded warning button. And this even applies to container components. So if we go two-column layout component, we go to the component properties, we can see the same ones, but we also get this nice little stack on small, stack on medium, which will make these two columns collapse on small and medium devices. All of those are enhancements for the foundation-based components, which you get out of the box. The other thing to note is all our components also support this rendering feature, which if you check there, it'll just put a box around everything. So it makes it very easy to see what components are where and kind of where the separation is. So very easy way to deal with that. Now, on the back end. So most of the functionality in terms of wrapping components and things like that are in the container, foundation.container class. And essentially what we actually built up is a container pipeline where you can really look at the rendering parameters of what's being rendered and figure out what you wanted to do. So while the foundation container just basically gives the basic mechanism for building the support into your own components. And just to give you an idea exactly what that looks like, Foundation Common Components has some of the standard HTML components. Like a simple component would be like a text component. And you can see, let me zoom in a little bit, this HTML.component container is part of that container class, container library. And what this actually ends up doing is wrapping the component in a div with any of the rendering parameter attributes, as well as an additional class text dash component so that you could target this component however you want. Now the foundation components in the feature foundation components actually has its own foundation container class processor, which plugs into that pipeline, and it basically checks to see if the rendering parameters descends from the foundation template, and then starts looking for the various parameters and applying the proper CSS classes. But you can build your own components. You can plug into this pipeline to kind of control what gets it, so it gives you a clear separation of things like that. And the default base implementation handles the ID and CSS class, as well as additional parameters to support the rendering, highlighting. And that's it for today.